It's Miles the DJ, backstage at the Minnesota State Fair. And this is pretty surreal for me right now, speaking with Scott and Brian from Weezer.
Cool, man. Thanks for having us.
It's really happening, though.
It's really happening, and it's
real.
Well, I mean, you have some pretty devoted fans. The first Weezer record came out in '94. Scott, you joined in '01, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you both come across some pretty diehard fans from time to time. What's something that you kind of generally hear from these fans, and how do you react to it?
Things like, "You guys are my first cassette that I've ever bought or ever owned," and that feels great. It's like a double-edged sword a lot of times. Like, that feels great, but cassettes, that's even older than CDs.
Sure.
So I don't know.
But cassettes are making a comeback right now, though.
Yeah, well,
seems like it.
I don't know. It's kind of like great, it's nice, but then like, I don't think people know what they're saying, what the implications of what they're saying are sometimes.
Sure.
But I mean,
do you get weirded out by it? I'll tell you kind of a story that happened with me and you once. I was in the green room at Jimmy Kimmel Live in 2002. Me and you.
Okay.
We weren't there together or anything.
Okay. Oh.
But I was like 16, 17 years old at the time, and
okay.
I'm a pretty diehard Weezer fan. I'm one of those people, and I came up to you, and as a kid, I approached and said, I didn't say hello. I was just like, "Do you realize that you're in the greatest band that's ever lived?"
Uh-huh.
And it was sort of like, I felt kind of bad because you didn't really know how to react to it. I imagine you get that kind of stuff a lot. I mean, is that weird to hear? Is it humbling? I mean, what's the vibe you get when you have like an idiot like myself?
It's nice to hear, but you can't take somebody's like enthusiasm and like really take it to heart. Like, I am like the best band that ever. It's a little like I get insecure and maybe shy. Like, the attention's on me and or us, and I'm glad that person feels that way. But I don't know what to do, really, how to process all that information.
There was a time in 2001, Green Album Tour, where you needed a new bass player.
Yeah.
Scott was approached, joined the band. 15 years later, he's still doing it. He's still.
Sounds like a Scott question.
Did you expect yourself to be in the band this long? I mean, there was sort of it was kind of like the Spinal Tap drummer of the band. So like,
I told everybody, I was like, I'm going to be the last bass player you guys are going to have. Your bass player problems are over.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a fan, was super excited, and I started on a temporary basis. I was like, come on, guys, take me with you. Like, they all left rehearsal one day to go do Island in the Sun video, but they didn't know if they were going to use me or not.
Sure.
And I was like,
second one.
With the animals, and it was just the trio.
Yeah, I was like, guys, take me. I'm going to be in the band. Like, yeah, all right, we'll see you tomorrow. I was like, oh, man. So I'll never forget that.
When did you know that you were a permanent member of the band, and how did you react to it?
This is all the way, we had played a bunch of shows, we had recorded all the demos, and then recorded Maladroit. And then there was a Maladroit photo shoot, and they told me to be there.
That's excellent.
So nobody told me I was in the band. It was just like, show up, we're taking pictures. I was like, all right, I guess I'm in the band.
I had the same treatment at the beginning, too.
Yeah. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
What happened there?
It's kind of a similar thing. It's hard to remember, but I was like, I was pretty no, you guys are making me a member of the band. Like, it's now. So kind of like, oh, okay, that was right after the Blue album.
There was a big fan of the new record, the White Album.
Cool.
You've been cranking out records for years now. I mean, there was a bit of a hiatus maybe at some point in the career of the band, but it seems like every year or two there's a new release. This new one, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the response or how fans have been treating it, but it seems to be sort of a callback to the first two records. Is that fair to say?
People said that about eBay, about everything will be all right in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never got somebody post saying, hey, you guys, this sounds like, you guys are getting back to your true form. And then the White Album comes out, and I guess it's a different group of people found that it was back to a true form, or are we talking about two different forms?
I think it might be, maybe for fans, it's like a process, maybe. Maybe at first it was like, whoa, this is like, and by the way, it's not to say that sound is better or worse or anything. Right, it's just more of a, I think they're different records the way I look at it. I felt that the record before was a little more kind of gritty, kind of grungy. Had some kind of really great songs on that album. I remember you played a show at the Regent, I think, in LA when you played it all the way through. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great record. I'm not trying to. I'm just. And maybe it's the color thing. Maybe it's because it's a colored record. Maybe that's why some people are saying that.
The reason why.
Bring it,
Brian
please.
can tell it.
What is it?
Yeah, you tell. I don't know what you're talking
I think that Jake Sinclair like really kind of came up with, like, being a hardcore Weezer fan. It's like, this is the formula for what makes Weezer cool, and we're going to use some modern sounds and some modern production, but we're going to embrace the things that really make
Sure.
Weezer what it is. So I think he kind of like took it all apart, dissected it, and then put it back together. So he's partly responsible for it.
I mean, to me, in a lot of ways, it sounds like almost every iteration or every record kind of put together. I would kind of compare it to career.
I think we get sorry to interrupt, but I think we do get a lot of other records that may get pushed aside. When the Green album was an awesome album. Like every album to me has some merit to it, regardless if you love it all the way through. And I think you hit the nail on the head. It is like it's a collection of everything we know about music, really, and we're not purposely trying to remake our past.
I had the same reaction when I heard the Radiohead record In Rainbows. Kind of thinking about their entire career, all kind of coming together with one record. That's how the White Album sounds to me. You've been on the road pretty much all year, it feels like, on this record. How has the tour been going? What's the reaction been like from
At least
fans?
all summer.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic summer touring with Panic at the Disco and Andrew McMahon. Sold out across the country, playing to extremely large audiences, mainly because of Panic at the Disco's draw. And, I don't want to discredit our own draw, but I really saw kind of an unequal balance a lot of the nights. But the cool thing is that those people mostly stayed for our set, and I think we won over some fans and some younger fans, and we're always trying to broaden our fan base.
And you've done it. I mean, you can't be a band for I don't know when Blue came out 22 years ago, something. I mean, to be this relevant, you're as relevant as you've ever been. You're playing a venue tonight that holds like 15,000 people, and you, a lot of it, you're going to play a lot of new songs, I would imagine. I mean, a career-spanning thing, but...
Not really. We'll play some new, not enough in my opinion, but we're always kind of, we accept the past. We try to present some of the songs we've been doing forever in maybe some new ways, and we have fun with it. That's the main thing. Live, we're not going to play exactly like the record. We might do some improv things, subtle improv things that only maybe we know about, and that's what keeps it exciting for us.
I want to talk about Scott again for a second, because
I do too.
I'm a big fan. I used to play bass growing up.
Cool.
You were an influence for me, and I've never seen Weezer without you in the band. So as far as I'm concerned, you're the bass player in Weezer. I mean, obviously, it's
cool.
It goes without saying. Metallica was in town a couple weeks ago, and I was speaking with some of the crew and whatever, and talking about Robert joining the band in 2003 and how there was sort of a rejuvenation that came after he joined, and it made the band better. It seems to me, the live show, the records, I think Scott's kind of done that for Weezer. Is that fair to say? Am I correct?
I think Scott is the Cliff Burton of Weezer.
Right on.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, we're kind of going reverse there with it. Okay. Yeah, sure.
No disrespect to Robert Trulio, is that his name?
Yeah.
And or Jason Newsted, but I think Scott is Cliff was my hero growing up.
Thanks, guys.
I'm a fan, and listen, I can talk to you all day. I wish I could. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Talk to you all day if you want.
Yeah,
Can we keep going?
Please do. Yeah.
All right, let's chill out. We got a TV in front of us. Zeke, you good filming? You all right?
I was trying to turn it off. If people wonder why I'm continuing with the remote, I was actually trying to turn it off to not be distracted, but I can't figure it out. So
we're very loose.
Go mute
at Go 96.3.
Yeah,
so whatever you want to do, we're very artist friendly. So
cool.
Watch some TV. We're just kind of hanging out.
Play bass anymore?
I haven't. Well, I started working in radio when I was 18. So once I did that, I sort of fell off. But I can play I can play some chords. I can do a couple things. I can play Only in Dreams really well.
Scott not only plays the bass guitar, but he also plays all the bass frequencies, like the low Moog notes and other synth, usually in the same kind of register, usually below middle C.
I saw that Scott posted a photo of your bass for tonight, and you seem pretty excited about that. What's the significance of the bass you're playing this evening?
Does you really want to know? It's such a bass-heavy, techie question.
Sure, why not?
So it's a 1965 jazz bass. It's totally original, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think the pick guard has ever been off it. So it's a sunburst. So you take the pick guard off, and you're like, holy shit! Like I never saw what the paint was under it. So it's like if you had half a mask on,
sure,
and then somebody just took it off, and like, oh my god, I know you had one funny colored eye. Like, how weird is that?
Were you kind of afraid to do that today?
My tech did. He didn't even tell me he was doing it.
Oh.
And he came over and he's like, showed it to me.
Is that the one that was in the rain?
No, that's another bass.
Okay.
So, but he saved it. A lot of time you take those old guards off, and then they shrink, and you can't get them back on again. But he figured it out.
Why did you take it off?
Because we were trying to get the pickup height right.
Okay.
What's your favorite song to play live?
God, it used to be Greatest Man. Yeah, because it was so challenging. I don't know what it is now. King of the World is fun for me because the feel is so cool.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, so I'll say King of the World.
You don't follow pro wrestling at all, do you?
No, but I was just in Japan and they had these shops dedicated to all pro wrestling memorabilia.
There's a wrestler who his whole gimmick is he's the greatest man who ever lived.
Wow.
His name's Austin Aries, and it's because he's a huge fan of Weezer. So
is it really?
That's 100% true. Yeah.
That's cool.
So,
We never knew that.
Yeah. He's an NXT wrestler who
I wanted to be a pro wrestler. That's the direction I was going, but then I decided not to.
I feel like there's similarities between being a wrestler and in a band in some ways, in that you're touring on the road all the time. There's a grind to it. You're coming up with new ideas and techniques, whether it's for songs, whether it's for your gimmick or whatever. So there can be some parallels to it.
That's true.
I don't know. What about you, Brian? What's your favorite song to perform in the entire catalog of Weezer?
Well, I always take these questions like literally like today.
Yeah, I get it.
Because I would say early on it was always Only in Dreams, because I loved how the song would build and climax, and it would kind of change every single time and be a moment in the set where you, as a player, you felt chills if it hit. Sometimes it didn't hit right. Always Say It Ain't So has been our like kind of strongest song, I think, in the set. But recently in the White Album, I really like playing LA Girls. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of guitar stuff I can do or do on it, and but for Pinkerton era, I'd have to say Get You. And I love that one moment after the bridge where we have this like kind of twisted blues lick that's
That I always get wrong.
that Scott's never got right.
I miss it playing that song.
But it's so cool. There's so much power to that song, and I wish we were doing it.
Why? Let's do it tonight. Why not? Let's make it happen. Not to put you
We
on-
already have our set.
I know. I'm feeling it. The record is
Should do it.
it's very California centric. I noticed.
It's California centric.
Was that conscious?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. It was. A lot of times, as a writer, it's good to be presented with a theme, so then you know what you're writing about, and once you have that theme, you can keep everything sort of cohesive, and that's what happened. And Rivers does live near the beach, and kind of the sunnier side of LA, but it's still kind of like, to me, the summer was always a sort of a bum out, and so that's why I presented the song "Endless Bummer," because I wanted to actually go back to school. That's where all the girls were.
Sure.
The summer was long and drawn out, and I'm always someone that likes to stay motivated and moving forward and look at girls.
I love it.
You know that one?
Completely agree.
That's wrong.
I'm getting the go home cue, so we gotta wrap it up. But before we do, there's one question for each of you. We're in Minnesota.
Yeah.
We're in the Twin Cities. We're at the fair. Any memories that you can kind of speak on from being in Minnesota and how you feel about being here whenever you roll through?
My mom was born in Minnesota, from Crosby, Minnesota.
Okay.
And grandmother is her mother was from Brainerd, father from Atkin, and then they moved to Iowa later. But so I kind of have lineage, this like Norwegian, Swedish, not Norwegian, so Swedish, Minnesota Lutheran background. So I do have a affection towards Minnesota.
Scott, anything you want to say about Minnesota?
A bunch of the families we went to Ethiopia with live here, and all the kids. We all adopted kids from Ethiopia, so that's always
cool.
fun. So when I come here, I see tons of Ethiopian people.
Yeah.
It's cool. I don't know why there are so many Ethiopians here, but there are. So it's awesome. And then my old bandmate Chad Smith, we played in a band together, Loved by Millions, in Toledo. He's an awesome keyboardist, and I love him and his family, and they're here, so that's fun.
Oh, that's great.
Also, we had a lot of great shows at First Avenue when Weezer was first starting out. And I remember pulling up in what we called the Enforcer. It's our like A-team like van. In the like it was snowing outside and
Sure.
and kind of like really wild crowd like that at those shows. And of course, Prince, great music history here.
The Revolution's playing First Ave tonight, in fact,
Oh, wow.
as we
Oh, my
record this.
gosh.
So maybe after the show we can race over there.
Yeah,
That'd be a
for
good
sure.
time.
That would be a great time. That's the place to be after our show, obviously.
Brian, Scott, Weezer, I can talk to them all day, but we got to cut it short. I guess we went a little long, so all good.
We're not cutting it short.
We're hanging out. We're cutting it, exactly.
All right.